We're live. Go ahead, Jeff. Take it away.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I'm Jeffrey Darty, and it's great to be a guest here on Channel 27 with the one, the only Heidi Vandenberg. And of course, not to overlook the super talented Jenny Moonstone, one of my favorite people. And you know me from New Cosmic Knowledge. Ladies, it is really a thrill to be here. It's been too long since I've seen both of you. What the heck is going on in your worlds?
Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, it's so funny. We're both like, you go. I don't
No, go ahead, Jenny. You go first.
Okay. So I'm really excited to have our talk tonight. It's really timely. I personally haven't been creating any content for my own channel. I've just been doing a couple, shows here and there with Heidi for the past like 6 weeks or so. So I'm excited to catch up with you guys and talk about the ego. I know Jeff has been talking a little bit about that the past day or two, along with some other interesting things like the 666 thing came up. That's actually very relevant.
That was your idea, Jen, and you're the one that asked me about that. I thought that is a great idea, so I busted out a show on it. Thank you for the inspiration.
My pleasure. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of misconceptions with that as well as there are misconceptions with what the ego is and what that, how that serves, how that functions. So
yes.
Things in Heidi's world.
Things are great here. It's storming, so I hope we keep the power. It's a monsoon just decided to. Can you? It just decided to come. Wow. So hopefully we'll be okay with that.
I think it's funny, not funny, haha, but funny, interesting. Be having a discussion about this with you two, because a lot of people, equate the ego as it's bad. You got to kill your ego. You got to destroy your ego. And yet it's funny. You see people on YouTube crashing the ego and saying the ego's bad. And yet make a decent YouTube video. There has to be some ego involved. So, I mean, we all know what happens when the ego gets out of control. We all know what happens when there's no ego, or maybe we don't. We can talk about that. But I think you two are good examples of the fact that, the argument that the ego is important, but you can't let it run away with you.
Yeah. I just decided to Google the Webster dictionary of ego. And the first thing that pops up was a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. And I was like, okay, because this is how I've always thought about ego. And I'll just start. And my perception may not be right. It's not, we're going to have 3 different perceptions here. And I'm sure that mine's going to be a little more for the singles and a little more harsh. Okay.
The Heidiism.
Heidiism. But I will say that how I look at it is if you don't have, self-love, self-respect, and I've gone through lows and highs of this. Okay. So it's not like you're always even keel. Okay. Because when I was younger, I'm going to tell you that I didn't have a really good self-esteem, and I did, but I had a lot of insecurities. Okay. And this is good old K2 in the first half.
My bad. Rookie mistake.
Is everything okay?
Yep. It's just my best friend I've known since I was 11. Nothing important.
Aww.
But if you don't think you're important and you have low self-esteem, that would mean you have a low ego, apparently, to this. And in my opinion, if you want to survive in this world and if you want to be successful, that's what you need. I mean, this is just when people make YouTube videos like, oh, you got to drop the ego, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's like, what are you thinking? You need an ego. You need an ego or you're going to get walked all over. You're going to be like a piece of trash, period. So there's a healthy ego. Now, yeah, there's a bad ego. I have a big ego. Yes, I do. I can admit it. And I don't even care. But it went from really low, I guess, to high. And I can tell you, we came into this world alone. We're going to die alone. This is how I look at life. So why don't you worry about yourself? And that's how I look at it.
Who can argue the fact, I mean, just looking at these definitions, self-esteem, we have to have some self-esteem in order to succeed in this life. I don't care if you're on YouTube or just going to your job, you got to have some type of self-esteem to even get yourself out of bed in the morning without swallowing a pistol. You just got to do it. And it also talks about self-respect and self-worth. We've got to have those things, self-confidence. We've got to have those things. And I mean, even Jesus, the Master, the Christ, whatever you want to call him, he himself said that there's nobody yet that has hated their own self. And he also said you've got to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, how do you love your neighbor? I'd like to ask somebody how you could love yourself, not have some degree of ego in it. Jenny, tell us what you're thinking.
Well, basically, I think that the ego is neither good nor bad, and it kind of, one of your videos you did was entitled "Something Really Bad Happened."
Yeah,
it got me thinking. The definitions. Here come the kamikaze bugs.
Hold on, look, I don't want to ruin it.
Heidi swatting flies and gnats and stuff.
It's so funny. It always happens. Like Heidi and the bugs.
It's not like she lives in a tenement either. It's a really nice place, and yet there's still these bugs flying around.
And I have so much bug spray everywhere. You don't understand. I don't know how these things get in, but we have absurd amounts because I live on the water.
That's right.
Oh, that's true.
So there's like
Jenny, are you shuffling tarot cards?
I am. It's so funny because I don't even plan on using them tonight. This is just, it's like an extension of my body. It's like tapping your feet or, biting your nails or something like that. So in any case, so the whole definitions of good and bad, how do we know one without the other? I think that the ego works very similarly to that, in that I would characterize the ego as a condition that we develop as baby humans coming into this realm. I think it's a condition or a symptom that we develop in order to interface with the world around us. How do we know the dark without the light? Is how do I know the I without the you? How do I know the me against the what? So the ego really is kind of a map or a guide of finding out how you fit into everything in relation to everything else. So in that sense, it's kind of a temporary condition. It's just a facade or a system of defense, a system of navigation that we carry to make sense of this existence. But after the body dies, I think that ego for that particular incarnation, for that body, for that person, the ego dies with it. And what remains, or what always was the immortal soul. And I think that the immortal soul will take on infinite amounts of egos throughout infinite incarnations. So I don't see it as a bad thing. I mean, there are good egos and bad egos, and what's good and what's bad. It brings us back to the whole concept of duality. So
I like that. I do.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Jenny, because part of the further down in the definitions, within that definition of ego, it says part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious. And that's exactly what you were talking about, mediating between the conscious and the unconscious. And it says that it's also responsible for reality testing and forming a sense of personal identity. I mean, look at these things, mediating between conscious and unconscious. Do we need that? Yes or no? We need to have a good grasp of how to test and evaluate reality. Yes or no? Do we need to have a sense of personal identity? Yes or no? I mean, all those answers are yes, right?
In order to exist. And Heidi brought up a really good point. Based on the environment that you're born into and raised in, the ego is very much affected by the societal demands that are placed on you, the expectations placed on you by your parents and your employers and your school. So depending on where you grow up, the ego will adapt to fit that. But kind of on the flip side of that, we would sometimes perceive somebody with a low ego or minimal ego to be someone who's meek and someone who doesn't have confidence, when really the person that has dissolved the ego and understands that, sort of has stepped away from that need to have that interface, we would look at those people as being, the Tibetan monk archetype, that being that knows that he is part of everything else. So we think, they would say in those cultures that pride is the enemy, that ego is the ultimate enemy, because this interface that human beings need in order to navigate this reality is actually just a tool, and it's not entirely necessary, but we need it because we live in the Western world. We have to compete, we have to survive, we have to protect ourselves and our families. So ego is absolutely necessary. So unless you live in a convent or you're an avatar, you're training to be an avatar in the Himalayan mountains,
right?
Ego serves a very, very important purpose.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So how has ego gotten such a bad rap within our community, within the New Age community, the truther community, the new thought community? Why is ego? I mean, ego's the enemy now. Everybody wants to bash the ego and say it's bad. How did we get to this place?
God. So I think, first of all, people have a perception of it that's totally off and false. Like, I think people don't even realize maybe they use it in a sense of relationships, and they say, oh, you got to surrender, you got to do this, you got to do that. And like, I don't agree with that. Okay. So I'm going to have a totally different facade here, and mine's going to be not the most, rosy and beautiful, because I'm a realistic human being that speaks the facts, because I see. So when you do thousands and thousands of charts, this is like when we talked about twin flames, and I said, I don't buy it. I think it's BS. I think it's a crock. I'm not into the twin flames. I think it's a karmic relationship. That's what it is. And you can say it's this and that, but in my opinion, that's what it is. And I think that people try to use that whole ego thing, drop the ego, to get you to surrender, to be all spiritual. And it's just like maybe nobody doesn't know maybe they're just unaware of what it means. Or, oh, he's egotistical. What? He cares what people think? Okay, everybody should to a certain degree, like you should have a little self-respect and a respect for others and care about what people think about you, or you're going to be a freaking maniac, like you might just be a loose cannon out of control. That's how, like, in my opinion, maybe an egotistical maniac would be like a serial killer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's like everything else. It's a set of rules, and the eternal struggle as human beings is to find a way to filter or minimize or conform the soul, which is limitless, into some kind of a construct here in a three-dimensional reality. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be doing some more stuff on twin flames, and it's kind of loosely titled Twin Flames / Twin Infernos, and we'll go down that path and talk about some of that stuff. I think there's a lot that needs to be understood. I'm taking a few hits in the chat room about, well, Jeff, you did a video a few months ago about your ego is not your amigo, and now you're on here talking about this. And I don't know how you two feel about it, but if I'm saying the same things and believing the same things and parroting the same things that I believed 2 years ago, 6 months ago, 5 years ago, does that show that I've done any growth? Does that show that I'm learning anything? No. I mean, we grow, we develop. And I'm going to tell myself a little bit, people might find this a little bit hard to believe with the kind of persona that I guess people think I project on YouTube. But in my personal life, like in relationships typically, and I have a real good friend named Carol, and she told me that, I don't know how to say this delicately because it's Heidi's job to drop the F-bombs on YouTube.
Go ahead, drop them away.
I'm not going to do that.
There's no filters here.
There's no filters. Good.
Say what's on your mind. This is like a therapy session all the time.
She told me that her observation of me is that when I'm in a relationship, I can be too nice, too surrendering. She said I'm too much of a poussoir sometimes in relationships. And when you allow that to happen, like Heidi and Jenny are mentioning, you end up getting walked all over it goes, do you want to be vulnerable to have true love? Yes, but can you be too vulnerable and end up getting walked all over? It really is a riddle. It's a conundrum. What the hell do you do?
It's gotta be a balance, because I can tell you from somebody that's had a lot of relationships and a lot of shitty ones. Okay. And a lot of
talking about me, Heidi.
A lot of relationships where I had to learn a lot of lessons. And it's like the ones that were shitty, I was trying to keep going. And like, for instance, my ex-husband, he was such a nice guy, great guy. I could have said, hey, go to 7-Eleven, do back handsprings on the way. I need this, then drive here, do this. Okay. And he would have done it. Like, he was so nice, but I just didn't have that. But he was too nice. And then he did the whole, God, I hope he never watches this video. Okay. But you know what? I told the shrink this too. I said, then it's like, because he wanted to see a therapist when I wanted to end it. And then to top it all off at the end, he goes and gets a tattoo with my name on his arm when things were on the rocks. And I was like, holy shit. Right? I mean, that was it. That was it.
His ego submitted to your ego, and being a woman with human nature, you automatically lost respect for him. Whatever respect or admiration you had, or attraction, that's a very personal case-by-case thing too. But when especially with men and women and relationships and things like that, I think when one side gives too much, the other side naturally, perhaps not super consciously, but on some level, will relinquish respect, and it just chips away more and more and more. And that's why people's egos come into play. And it's like, I don't want to bow down to you. I don't want to, and there's power struggles, and you have to fight. Unfortunately, if you want the vision, if you buy into the idea of a certain kind of relationship that you believe that you want in your life, you're going to have to compromise. You're going to have to engage the ego. So you're going to have to engage somebody else's ego. There really is no way around it. There is such a thing as just people that are not compatible. So
yes, there absolutely are. And you can see this in the charts. Okay. Because my ex-husband and I had the worst compatibility in the world. Okay. And this other person that I couldn't stand either once I had horrible compatibility with. But like, it's not good to have too good compatibility either, or you'll just be buddies. So there's so many things that need to be taken into factors.
Can I circle back to what Jenny was saying just a minute ago?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Jenny, are you telling me, and Heidi, are you ladies telling me that if a guy in a relationship is too nice, too giving, too subservient to the woman, that she's going to lose respect for him?
No.
I can't speak for other women. I can't speak for Heidi. All I can say is that I believe it's in the nature of many women to want to be with the male that is kind of dominant. I know that this sounds so old-fashioned, and I'm probably going to catch so much crap for this, but I will tell you, in light of the new culture, we call them soy boys and cucks and beta. In light of that culture, which really has served to present to a lot of people what kind of partners they want and don't want, if you're giving me the choice, I will always disrespect the man that disrespects himself. So it really is about having a standard for yourself. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't lower myself and throw myself on I'm speaking hypothetically here, but right. I think that we just naturally, I think it's human instinct. It's kind of like in the pack mentality. We respect the strongest in the pack. He's the boss or she's the boss. That's the way that it is. So I think in relationships, there's a similar dynamic at work there. You have to respect yourself. You will only be treated in the way that you're shown. You will accept,
So what you're saying, if we colloquialized it and summed it way down, is that a real woman likes to have a real man.
Yes.
That is so interesting. That's fascinating. And I think, and I have made this mistake in the past, to be, somebody used the word surrender, and I've even used that word. And it's so, and once you do it, it's not like you can change either. You can't really unring the bell. You can't really get the horses back in the corral. So instead of trying to outthink ourselves and outsmart ourselves and, go soy boy or whatever, we really have to learn to be ourselves. And if you had a healthy ego, gentlemen, if I had a healthier ego, I probably would have never gone to those places.
And that's another word that if we can talk about real quick is surrender, because right. You said this and you were like something about surrendering. And once again, this is in my chart. Okay. So I can tell you that this isn't like this for everybody. And this is truly a case-by-case scenario. But every time I've tried to surrender, I've got screwed over, hurt, deceived. Not like I didn't do all that same shit. Okay. So karma's a bitch. I get it. But
only if you are, Heidi.
the ones that I did surrender to, that I did try, it was like a vast kick in the ass. So I don't agree with surrendering. I don't think you need to surrender. Why should you change and be a different person and make somebody else more important than you? I'm so different because I just think everybody should have their self first, like under control. You need to love yourself. You need to have yourself under control. You need to care about yourself. Maybe more, not maybe if you have kids, it's different. Okay. But until you have kids, it's totally different. All right. But you still, like I said, came into this world alone. Nobody's leaving with you. Nobody. So that's all I have to say.
So the weak ego is bad, but you can go obviously the other way, right? And have a guy that's, you know, not physically abusive, maybe not verbally abusive, but it's just a complete total jerk. And I mean, that's not going to be a turn on either, is it? A guy that's just a complete ass.
No, but I'd rather be with a complete ass than a complete vagina. Okay.
What about you, Jenny?
No comment.
That's just me. Okay, that's just me.
Well, here's the thing is I am married, so my type is the man that I'm married to. He is the archetype. You know, I'm just saying, he's the archetypal guy that I've always been attracted to. So, and that's why we're married. And Heidi knows my husband is that this, the ego thing is an issue in all relationships. Okay. And so when it comes to, what is attractive to what makes somebody attractive, I think that really depends, because there are people that are physically and sexually attracted to people that are mentally insane. Like there's somebody for everybody, you know what I mean? But I think that the best thing to do is to just fine tune the health, and attraction is there. So we're naturally attracted to people that are healthy and balanced. So if the ego is all out of control, or completely, the ego is controlling the person and not the other way around, which I think is really key. And probably the key to that is being aware of the ego and kind of what it is, or at least kind of what it is, because really we don't know. Somebody invented the word ego, and it was derived from a bunch of different words that mean a bunch of different things, and here we are trying to define something which is essentially indefinable.
Yeah, I think the word ego actually means I in Latin, and it was Sigmund Freud who kind of popularized it, and he's got 3 or 4 different layers of it. And I think that sometimes as people, and especially in the woo-woo community, like, we find ourselves a lot of times, I think we overthink stuff, and we're trying to be what we're not. We're trying to be all super spiritual. We're trying to be, 5 love languages and twin flames. And if we just would quit overthinking stuff and just get healthy and just be ourselves, and we wouldn't have to worry about all this crap, I think we bring so much of our own problems on ourselves. And I wish there was an easy way to figure it out, because if there was, I would freaking teach it and maybe help some people. I don't get it. And even when sometimes you end up doing stupid shit. There
is a way to figure it out, because it's in your chart. It's mapped out in your chart, and you will, it's there. Some people have that as a karmic curse. Some people don't. I do. I can sit here and say that is my lesson. I know I suck in relationships. It is so true. And it's something I have to learn. And that's why I'm really good at giving advice in it, because I have had so many mistakes and so many mess ups. I mean, I can sit here and act but Jenny has seen both sides of me, where I've been right, Jenny? You've seen me where I've been oh my God, blah, 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 right? So all I have to say is there's always a lesson. And with that said, part of your journey here could involve learning how to be in a relationship, which that's my journey. That's my lesson. But the easiest way out is to be alone for me. So you have to try to balance it. But you're going to have some people like you or me, you'll notice you have the same patterns. You'll have the same sort of people. You'll be attracted to the same shit each time.
Wow.
Cycle. It's a pattern.
It's a cycle. Yeah. Let's be honest. It would be great to have a nice balanced freaking relationship. But realistically, I know that's not in the cards for me. Okay. So there's a cycle.
And Heidi, we've been friends for a while now, and you've given me a lot of advice through the charts, and sometimes I've listened to you,
Oh, yeah,
And
right.
sometimes I have not listened to you.
Yeah.
But I've got to say that every time I haven't listened to Heidi, and Heidi said, don't say I didn't tell you, don't say I didn't warn you. Every time that you have given me advice that I did not listen to, it has bitten me in the ass with
Yeah.
big, long teeth.
With big long teeth. Well, and I
It
have
really
to say
has.
this, and you know, though, I can only tell so much, and there's a certain amount of karmic lessons that I won't tell people. I will never tell somebody to leave somebody unless I think they're physically getting abused and
Right.
they're in danger, their life is in danger. Because what if something really awesome comes out of that? Okay, what if an opportunity because of a move, like my ex-fiance, yeah, I was engaged to once, all right? I moved to Maryland with him, was engaged. And, like I wouldn't have moved here if it wasn't for him. So there's always a reason.
Ah.
You see? So like you meet people in your life, and actually I set him up with my best friend Liz. They're married, have a child. So it's great. All right.
That's great.
So like there's always a reason. There's always a reason somebody's popping in your life. So who am I to say, oh, do you sure? But I will give you what you're going to run into with this person or with that situation or with this type of, individual. But you need to learn certain things on your own.
Absolutely. Jenny, you're kind of the more level-headed one of the three of us. How would you recommend for people to
Oh my God, I want to say something so bad, but I can't.
do it, Heidi? It's your show.
A level-headed one. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you and I are kind of mercurial. We're like hot-headed. We're all over the place. And Jenny seems to be, and I've only met Jenny once or twice. What?
Oh God.
But she just seems kind of level. I mean, you're like, you're like a swan on top of water. I don't know what's going on underneath the water.
Right.
How would you recommend people to develop a healthy ego?
So as soon as I figure that out, I will let you know.
Okay.
But that's so funny, and I appreciate you characterizing me as level-headed, because for that, what it is I'm neutral. So like
that's what it is. That's better stated.
So I kind of am sensitive to that, which if I get into a certain environment, I will become that environment very much so. Very sensitive to relationships, sensitive to communication, sensitive to food. So anyways, but thank you for that. I appreciate it. So, as far as developing a healthy ego, I think I want to answer that question by addressing a question that you asked earlier about this campaign to squash the ego or eliminate the ego, especially as it pertains to the alternative community, the truth community, that sort of those people. The New Age movement as well. You hear a lot of parroting going on. Crush the ego, dissolve the ego. You're all one. Well, to me, even before all of this, I felt that was very reminiscent of the NWO blueprint. I'm thinking, they want people they want people to define the ego as what makes us prideful, what makes us violent or jealous, and this and that. And I don't feel that way. I personally don't believe that human beings are inherently peaceful and lovey-dovey. I think we are vicious because by nature, I think we're intelligent and protective and lustful all by nature. I think that's just part of it. So to characterize the ego as something that is wrong with us, I think that is pushed, that sort of onslaught onto a lot of these communities, similar in the way that the New World Order wants everything to be regulated. So I take that as, you see a lot of these gurus out there, these spiritual leaders, awakened people. It's like a contest of who can bow lower. Like,
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
good.
Like, it's like, stop, you're not fooling.
It's like a spiritual, what's that thing where you go into the bar? What's that called? How you go backwards and you go into the bar? What the hell is that called?
Yeah, the limbo. Like,
it's like the spiritual limbo.
It's a spiritual limbo, and it's a big competition, and nobody is fooling me when I look at this. It's like, who can go longer without taking a shower? Who can go longer? Who can go longer living on a completely raw diet? It's like, stop it. You're torturing yourself, and you're not doing your heart any favors by dissolving what your human, what your person needed or, you know, was guided into to help you navigate this existence. Because if you break that down and you surrender your identity to something, anything else, somebody else will come in and fill that vacuum or fill that void and define it for you. So even if it's not perfect, even if your ego is flawed, at least it's yours. And so that's why I don't depend on, I'm not with this crush your ego and, oh, I'm so humble and, you know, oh, like, stop it. You're not. Like, we see through it. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I just, the whole new age thing and, you know, with the chakras and the avocados, it really kills.
Wait, what do you say? Say what you normally say.
What do I say?
About the avocados. Say what you do.
Like, you know, I don't know what I say about it. I love avocados. I eat avocados a few times a week. I have no qualms with avocados.
Me too. I love them.
But, you know.
Jenny, I think what you're saying, and I think this is brilliant. I never even thought about it. I'm going to have to ponder this. The more I talk to you, the more show ideas I get. So keep talking. But
great. So you're just stealing my intellectual.
Absolutely. Great. You know, when you talk to somebody that has a YouTube channel, anything you say can and will be turned into a show if it's worthwhile.
Great.
But the thing about it is, I think you've hit a key point. Why is there this war on the ego? Isn't the war on the ego? It could very well be part of the sheepalizing of people. Sheepalizing of men, the sheepalizing of women. Oh, get rid of your ego. Don't be an assertive, powerful individual. Don't be aware of your own self-worth. Don't be aware of your own reality. Don't be divine. Don't be sovereign. Don't be free. Can you be divine, sovereign, and free and not have an ego? And listen, I've shaken the hand of Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Pat Buchanan, lots and lots of presidents. I have a good friend who's worth $40-50 million. One thing that all of those guys had in common, they all had strong, healthy egos. And maybe number one, ego, get rid of the ego, is the sheepalizing of people. And is it possible that this whole war on the ego is by lesser people trying to tear down powerful people?
Yep.
Sounds about right to me. Or the war on the ego could be designed by very intelligent people, but only utilized and parroted by less intelligent people that are like, oh yeah, that's brilliant. Let's just stand on our soapboxes and tell everybody that this is how it is because they're idiots and they'll believe us.
And is it a way for weaklings and jealous people to tear down powerful and successful people? Oh, they've got ego. That's all their ego.
Exactly.
I'm so holy and I'm so well-centered and I am so high on the spiritual evolution because I have no ego. But look at all those people. They have ego. They're bad.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody complain about an unsuccessful person's ego. Have you?
Very true. Yeah.
Really good point. I haven't.
So true.
Great.
And people
Jenny's actually thinking about it. Let me see. Have I ever heard someone complain? No, I haven't. Jenny thought it through and she still got the answer of no.
And I would love to talk about that because I think in the YouTube land, the spiritual realm, it is so like power and success is so negatively looked down upon. And I'm going to just be quite honest with you. I like to only hang out with successful and powerful people. They can make me stronger. They can make me better.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean I have to be them. It doesn't mean I have to think like them. It doesn't mean I have to have the money that they have. But like to have a healthy ego, to be successful, this is like common sense. You have to hang out with people that are more successful than you. And I've been like this since a child. Like I have always hung out with older people and I've listened to them. This is why I made smart moves and got divorced quickly within a year and didn't get all knocked up with kids and get stuck like all my miserable friends. All right. I'm just being honest. Because
How do you really feel, Heidi?
Yeah, because I saw how miserable everybody was and then they get stuck. They stay because of the children. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not dealing with that.
Right.
Okay. So I was like 10 steps ahead. I was, so this is not saying it's good, bad, wrong, but for my lifestyle and what I wanted in my life, that was like smart in my opinion. So not only just because at some point relationships fizzle, relationships get a little, boring. Up, right? And I mean, I can't tell you how many people's readings I give to that are freaking miserable. And it's just, they're hanging out with the same crowds, the same stuff. They don't open up to new things. I think a whole nother thing is people are afraid of change. People are afraid of change as much as public speaking and death, which I think that's crazy. Like, I love change. Change it up. Me, I'm all about the change. Okay. So I think that's just, maybe I wouldn't have been like that if I didn't see all these patterns in people, like it's all about, in Step Brothers, they're like, it's all about who you know. I'm sorry, it is. It is so true. Like, it is all about who you know. I love
I'm
that
thinking
movie.
about whether or not you touched my drum set right now.
And
And somebody's talking about, I wouldn't shake Bill Clinton's hand. Well, I did shake Bill Clinton's hand, and he was up, and I had already met Reagan. I'd already met, and Clinton was the most charismatic dude I've ever met until I met Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the most charismatic dude he had the most presence of anybody I've ever met.
That's what my mom said too. My mom said his head was glowing.
His aura was blowing. This was really before I knew a lot about auras, but his aura was blowing up. I mean, Trump, and you look at successful people, and they've all got that something. They walk into a room, they've got that presence. They've got, I don't know if it's an aura, but what it is that's ego, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to admit it. But that's ego. That's something, that boom, that, oh, who's that? When you walk in and everything stops, that's friggin' ego, ladies and gentlemen.
It's Leo. It's that Leo house. It's that sun in your first house. It's how your sun's placed in your chart. It's all in the charts.
Wow. So, I'm born again. I am born again, ladies. I am all for the healthy ego. I repent of saying the ego is not your amigo. I repent for, trying to bash the ego. I was part of the bash the ego crowd for a while, and I've paid the price for it. And it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. We've got to learn to develop. And I used to say, and this is why I think this is the key. I don't know how I talk myself out of it. Ego makes a terrible master, but it can be a very efficient servant.
I agree.
What do you think about that?
No, I really agree with that statement. And I think that a huge reason, one of the huge reasons why our society is in shambles right now is it's not because we don't have a healthy ego. I mean, I think we want to define what healthy is. And in my opinion, where the ego is concerned, I think just having an awareness that our ego is not necessarily, it's not all of who we are, since most people have relinquished their belief or their knowledge. Really what it is, it's because people don't know. People are ignorant. The education system is broken, so we're not taught of our true nature. So humans, with the societal structures that have been imposed upon us so brutally, we have all forgotten of our true spiritual nature. So we've delegated all of our faculties. We've delegated all of our interactions with everybody on every level of society. We've delegated that job to the ego and not the whole spirit being. And I think that's why we're in turmoil, is because when we look at what's going on, it's ego versus ego versus ego. And that's why you see people like Donald Trump, who has a very, his ego is very fiery and powerful, and you can't miss him. But in a world that has been delegated, where interactions are all delegated by the ego, because that's what the ego is, it's the interface. So when we're interacting with somebody, we're only consciously interacting with the ego part of that person. We're obviously interacting with them on other levels, but we're not conscious of it. We're only consciously interfacing with somebody else through their ego via our ego. So in a world that is run by ego interactions, somebody like Donald Trump, MAGA, he will dominate because his ego is fine-tuned, sophisticated. He's had all the best education. He knows the knowledge. See, he's so healthy because he has a full awareness of who we are and what we are as human beings, as a master class, as immortal beings that came here and decided to undergo this process and go through this cycle again and again and again. He's aware of it. And I think that's what makes him so powerful. And to develop a healthy ego, I think starts with recognizing what the ego is to the best of your ability. Start there.
So I
think
want to
Donald Trump sits around worrying about his ego?
No,
I think he did though. I think okay. So Donald Trump is a great example of an ego explosion. Okay. Anybody that's a Leo rising or a Leo in the 10th house, which I have Leo in the 10th house, it's my sun sign in Vedic. So I have Sun conjunct Mercury in the 10th house. So people in the public, people at work, yes, can see me maybe as a little bit like, you know, and I want to be seen at work as, you know, like I'm doing a good job. Okay. And that's a Leo. That's a Leo in your chart. So when you have this in your chart heavy and Mars, and Jeff, you have this as well. Okay. Because you have it. Now yours is in your 12th house. So it acts a little bit different because you're a Virgo rising. You can switch around, you know, but when you have this shit in your first house or 10th house, there's no getting out of this. Like there is, because that's how people see you. So he is a Leo rising. And then he has Mars, which is like so if he didn't have Mars in the first house, he wouldn't be as like blah, you know, which that's what I love about him, because it's like I wish I would have said that too, you know, same thing right there.
He doesn't give a damn.
He doesn't. But it's not
I'm
like
going back to that.
And it's not like he got there overnight. But that's what I have a lot of respect for him. But he does care what people think about him. I know he does.
Oh, he cares.
It actually bothers him. That it really bothers him that people are so rude to him. I guarantee you it does. Now, I'm not saying he's sitting around crying. Okay, no, because he's bigger fish to fry than that. But I think that it definitely hurts him.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
And he notices, Heidi, because when I was talking to Trump, we had like a 15, 16-minute conversation. And he wasn't just talking, but I saw him watching me. He'd be looking at my eyes to see if I was listening to him, to see if I was talking to him. He was really into whether or not I was listening to him or not. And he was listening to me. And this is a billionaire and a guy that's interviewing to run a timeshare thing at Taj Mahal. And he's like connected to me, talking to me, looking at me. So I guarantee like it when people make jokes about him. He knows.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like it.
Well, and Jeff, you know, I have to say, when people are sitting here in this chat, you said earlier, and saying like, oh, you went from ego, whatever, to no ego, whatever. Okay. I have to say that I think something that I admire about you the absolute most is, number one, that you were if you're new to this channel and don't know who Jeff is, make sure you check out his channel. I posted in there. Also posted Jenny's channel in here as well. Now, Jeff was an ordained minister for 30 years.
20.
Used to speak in sorry, I exaggerate a lot. He used to speak in tongues. Okay. First of all, when I met him, I was like, oh my gosh, like, so, because the fact of the matter is I used to cry that I couldn't speak in tongues.
Yeah.
It bothered me so bad that everybody else could do it and I couldn't do it. And I was like, tell me what the hell that is. Like, why couldn't I do that? Because I repented every freaking goddamn day. Every day I was like, Jesus, forgive me. Like, it was ridiculous. Okay. And I would not understand why I couldn't speak in tongues. So
I can't imagine Heidi being all Jesus stuff. I really can't. But
I'm telling you, it was out of control. And I used to really get upset and then, you know what else would bother me? So say I would repent, and then I would have a thought in my head that was a little bit sinful. Okay. I would say, it would really hurt. Like, why are you making me think these thoughts? Like, this is how religious I was. Nobody understands. You think I was making that up. So when I met Jeff, I was like, thank God I wasn't like, because I knew something was off. Like, I knew this was not right. And for Jeff to do that and be able to come here now and say that, you know, he actually researched it, looked into it, and now he's on a different path. And the whole religion thing is a control, power, fear, hoax factor, is something that I wish that everybody wishes they could do. Because if anybody should be so judgmental about it's Jeff is a splitting image of somebody that was humble enough to say that. Because this is, Jenny's sitting here cracking up, okay? But this is
I love it.
Because, and just like when Jeff makes a mistake, he goes out and admits it. So does Donald Trump.
That's true.
Yeah. And so will I. If I make a mistake, like I said, if he screws up, I'll put up my foot in my mouth and I'd say, damn, I was wrong. Charts were wrong. But until that day, sticking to my guns blazing.
And I'll tell you what, Heidi, now that you're sitting here thinking about it while you're talking about this, when I was running, full tilt, pedal to the metal, wall to wall, treetop tall, did I get a little out of control at times? Was I a little too egoic at times? Was I too much of a jerk at times? Yeah, probably. But since I made this, way pendulum shift way back to the other side towards the poussoir factor, it hasn't worked nearly as well for me as just going for it did. So I've made my decision. I am who I am. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to roll hard. I'm going to roll Donald Trump style. And if I piss somebody off, I'm sorry. But this pussyfooting around, tiptoeing through the tulips, trying to be all Mr. Spiritual and put this down and put that down, I'm through with it. It's time to just be me and let it roll. And I will take the results that come. I'm going to be more like Heidi. I'm saying, F it. Here I am. Let's go. Take it or leave it. But you're going to get who I am, and you're going to get my best.
That's what I love about Jay. Like, I love Jay from, when you and Jay do shows, like, Jay's so intense and he's like cracks me up. But, he is in some, I'm sure he can rub people the wrong way. Just like I know I rub people the wrong way. When I start talking about Trump, subscribers go down. It's like, but what am I going to do? Pretend like I don't like Trump so I get subscribers? No, because then that wouldn't be me.
I freaking love Donald Trump. I don't care what anybody thinks.
Me too.
Is he perfect? No.
Yeah.
Jenny, you're just shaking your head. Come on, bring some reason back to this discussion.
Yeah, because this is like two hotheads having
See, this is why I say you're the level-headed one.
Oh, God.
We're off on rants and you're just sitting there politely.
Jeff and I roar each other up all the time.
Ooh, you got me going, Heidi.
I'm definitely the more, out of the three of us, I don't know, maybe the most introverted, watery. I don't know. I'm in my own head a lot. I don't know.
Yeah. Jenny's probably in there thinking about some mystical, hermetic thing.
Jenny's splitting the atom of her. She's thinking about how to transmute lead into gold right now. I'm
swimming in a lagoon on Neptune with my dolphin family. No, but I don't know. I shouldn't say, okay, let me be very careful with my words. I don't know. You guys know, I don't know if we talked about it. I told Heidi a little bit about it, but I very recently was accused of all kinds of atrocious things.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that.
No. We don't even have to get into it. It really served, among other lessons, as a reminder that I have a huge responsibility with my words. And I have to be very careful about what I present and, be careful because there are a lot of people listening. And I just want to be deliberate and clear with everything that I said. I was actually accused of being a cannibal.
Being a what?
A cannibal. Yeah. Say what happened, Jenny. It's very necessary.
A cannibal.
That is the biggest, wow. Yeah.
Even I've never been accused of being a cannibal.
And that's kind of why it's such an absurd, outlandish, unbelievable accusation that it doesn't hold any weight. But what it did do was make me realize that you have to be careful with who you're talking to. There are a lot of psychos out there. There are a lot of people that, I'm sure you guys know, you've both come under attack, whether personal or public.
Yeah.
So, that's just kind of served as a reminder to me, okay, so there are crazy people out there that want to smear my reputation and make me look like some kind of a psychopath. And really what's interesting, and I'd love to talk to you about it, Jeff, I'd love to have a show on it, is it was partially why I was characterized by this person as being a cannibal, is because I identify as a pagan person and I don't worship Jesus Christ and I don't subscribe to the Bible. And so because I wasn't that, I was then by default a cannibal. So, it's just all very super ridiculous and doesn't really matter. But I've just come into a newfound sense of responsibility for my platform and the people that I'm reaching. So I am not a cannibal, ladies and gentlemen.
Heidi or Jenny, of course, that says a lot more about the person that said it than it does about you. Somebody says, let's ask the rods if she's a cannibal.
Oh, please do. Can we?
We don't have to ask the rods if you're a cannibal. But Jenny, anytime that you have a subject that you like to discuss on a show, just let me know and we'll just give me a time and date and we'll do it. Right now I'm on YouTube jail again, so.
Oh yeah.
But we can still do it recorded and put it out there.
I think we should ask the rods to clear it up.
Sure.
Ask her if she's a, you ask yours and I'll ask mine.
Okay. Show me a yes.
We can't. Oh yeah, no, we can see it.
Show me a yes.
Here, hold on.
Show me a no.
Show me a yes.
Ladies first. Go ahead, Heidi.
Okay, so my yes is backwards. My no apparently is forwards today. It
Shit, 2 months ago.
changes every day. It changes sometimes in the middle of questions. So
That's crazy. I never seen that. That's
it's
cool.
been going on since all the planets went retrograde.
Interesting.
That's what I came to the conclusion. I made that excuse.
Jenny, are you vegetarian?
No. No, I eat meat. I don't eat people for F's sake. It's just so ridiculous. Ew, yeah, gross.
I love that movie. All right.
Yeah, I hate it. It's terrible. Okay, ask. Is Jenny a cannibal?
Is Jenny a cannibal? No.
Is Jenny Moonstone a cannibal? No, hard no.
That was a fast no.
That was a hard no. Yeah, you're not a cannibal.
No.
That's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard.
Dumbest thing in the world. I mean, seriously, people, and you know, that's what happens. And I always tell Jenny, like, this is where you have to look out for people because people are lunatics. And I say, you got to stay out of that crap. You got to watch. This is why I don't respond to anybody on Facebook. I don't talk. I don't chit chat. I don't email and chit chat because people are nuts.
They are.
Yep.
People are crazy.
But if you have a healthy ego, it won't matter as much to you.
Right.
No, because I have a whole time career that I don't want to be out there as a cannibal to my clients on with real estate. And Jeff, you know what's the funniest thing about Jeff and I is we're always in videos together, like hating on, like we're always hated on together. Like that
we got some
Goganoff
real
video.
weirdos make some stuff with
Right?
us.
Jenny even saw that video. She sent it to me.
Oh my God, that was just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
Crazy.
who spends that much time? It's like but all three of us have hidden enemies because we have an active 12th house. So
Right, very interesting.
just so everybody knows, we always have to be on guard because of that reason.
Absolutely. And just
Well, ladies, I'd like to thank you for the counseling session tonight. It's really been helpful to me. And I'm going to apply all these lessons.
Oh, good. Well, good. Yeah. I would love to do something like this on my own channel one of these days. I think that would be really interesting. So, because Heidi's actually never even been on my channel.
I know. Next show we'll do on your channel.
Yeah, we should. That'll be fun. Everybody will flip out. It'll be so exciting.
And you know, it's so cool to be able to get on a channel like Heidi's and Jenny's and actually talk about, you know, leave, you know, people call it the conspiratorium, and to leave the, you know, the la rainbow unicorn frequency and just talk about some real shit for a change. That's what I like about you two. And, you know, like we were talking about trying to be around people that are smarter than you, that have better ideas than you. That's why I hang out with people like you and Rex and Derek Bros and stuff, because I want to learn, and you guys are, you're on the cutting edge of societal evolution. There's no doubt about it. And I'm proud to be your friend.
Well, that's nice of you to say, Jim.
And it's true.
Yeah. We all learn from each other. And we learn a lot from I learned so much from my subscribers where it's like,
absolutely.
And it freaks me out because there's like some of the stuff people know is just absurd. Like amazing, but you know, so we really do appreciate all of us with all of our channels, appreciate all subscribers, or we'd be sitting here talking to each other. We'd probably still be doing this though, sitting here chit-chatting with each other.
I know it's not my show, but Jenny, give us your final summation on ego.
Okay.
Give us some thoughts to live by.
Okay, so I think that the ego is not inherently a good thing or a bad thing. And I think that it's something that needs to be recognized and acknowledged because it does exist, whatever it is. And I think that moving forward, as I always like to say, because we want to go forwards, we don't want to go backwards, and we certainly don't want to stay still. Stagnation is the enemy, in my opinion. It's just the worst ever. I think that the ego, as long as we are aware of it, then we can work on it. We can develop an ego that will protect us through thick and thin and will carry us right all the way on through. Or we could work to dissolve the ego and, you know, see where that gets us. But, you know, I think this was a great conversation. It was totally not what I expected. It was like totally different. It's really cool. We don't script any of this stuff, you guys. We literally just jump on here and start talking to each other. So this is all organic. This is all just egos interfacing, I guess.
It is. And Jenny, I just figured out, it just hit me, one of the reasons why I like you so much, other than the fact that one of the main characters in the movie Constantine was based on your life, and I really believe that. But also, you remind me very much of my oldest daughter. Very, even physically, you almost look a little bit like her, and very much the same kind of energy. So that's really cool. And anyway, we'll move on from that. But it just hit me, and I realized that's why I have a affinity with you, because we don't know each other that well. But I feel like you're one of my favorite people.
Oh, thanks.
And as far as the ego goes, I've been literally from one side to the other. Egos, good, healthy egos, good for you. Develop it, keep it under control. It's a great servant, bad master. Been all the way over to the other side, kill your ego, slay your ego. Your ego's not your amigo. And maybe I'm coming back to the middle finally. I realize that I got to get back to having that healthy ego, that strong ego, not be afraid to be a man, not be afraid to be who I am, not be afraid to make some mistakes. I would rather be sitting in that rocking chair one day when I get really old thinking, oh boy, did I make some doozies? Oh boy, did I blow some stuff, rather than sitting there saying, what would have happened if I just would have tried a little bit harder? So I'm blowing it out. I'm going wall to wall and treetop tall. This was a great night for me, learning from you two. And Heidi, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'll give you back your show now.
No, thank you. Absolutely, for sure. And it's true. Jenny does have, there's something about her that she definitely has that energy that, I mean, I know all of Jenny's, everything about her. And I will say that she truly is such a good, genuine person that would do anything for anybody. And I would do anything for her, and I would do anything for Jeff and all of us that have met each other. But truly, Jenny, so when people, it really pisses me off that people say that about you. Cause there's one thing I don't put up with is when people talk smack about my friends, and both of you can attest that I will say something, and we're lucky I didn't get live and start a stream, because it's just not, but then it's the drama isn't worth it because people are clowns.
Right.
That's what they want.
They're clowns. Who knows? They could be, characters that are thrown in to screw us up or whatever you call them. So yeah. I will say that, that's where I am Jenny, don't even feed it any energy, but truly Jenny is one of the best souls that I know. And it's 100% the truth.
I agree
Make sure
with
you
that.
check out their channels, jennymoonstone.com for readings, Jenny Moonstone for her YouTube channel. Jeff, I posted your stuff in the description as well as Jenny's, but make sure you check out Jeff's channel and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Anything else do we have to talk about?
I'm going to cry now. As soon as the camera goes off, I think I'm going to cry. That was so nice, you guys. I
know, right?
It's been a pleasure to be with you. I appreciate it very much.
All right. I'm going to hit the end live. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.